Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we are checking out a game called VVVVV or VVVVVV or V6. I'm not actually sure how you would possibly say this, but it's 6 V's in a row. It's actually a somewhat famous indie title. It was actually released a decade ago, which is a key part of why we are talking about it today. This is from a developer named Terry Cavanagh. Very indie, as you can see from the graphics here. And the reason why we are talking about it today is the source code for VVVVVV was just released. By the way, if anyone knows the right way of saying that, let me know in the comments down below, because I doubt it's VVVVVV, I doubt it's V, and I doubt it's V6. But no matter how you look at it, it's 6 V's. So a very straightforward, basic art style game, but this one actually did quite well as far as indie style titles go. Kind of got that Super Meat Boy feel about it too, but this is one of the more successful independent. Oops, I did that wrong. All right, we don't need to see much more of the game. You got an idea of exactly what we are dealing with. So why are we talking about it again on this station? Well, as I mentioned, the source code was just released to the public. So it's been around for a decade. Terry Cavanagh is known for this game, for Super Hexagon and Dicey Dungeons. And he's got a very minimalistic art style, but he's just found success as an indie developer. He's kind of like one of those single-man indie dev teams that just continually, sees some success in a world where, it's a struggle to actually succeed. So they released all the source code for it. It is the 10th year anniversary. The source code is up on GitHub. I'm going to head on over there right now. So you see it's available in this repository. I will link this in the linked article down below. There are a couple of things to be aware of with this source release. Now, first off, there are 2 versions available here. So we've got the desktop version and the mobile version. It started life as the mobile version, or basically as the Flash version. So if you go into the mobile version, you will see that the source code is entirely AS, which stands for ActionScript. That was the JavaScript-esque programming language used to create Flash games. Now, I do really like this hello world thing that they've done as their initial commit comment. It's funny. It was well done. So we've got that version, and then there was the desktop version that was ported over straight C++ port from a mobile title. So if you want to jump into a C++ source code base, that is what this guy is. Now, I've taken a glance at some of the source code, and it's interesting. I'm not sure that you're going to learn a lot of good practice from this code. It's interesting. But anyways, it's great to see source code out there. I always love it when games that people have actually heard of ship their source code out there. So if you want to see how either a C++ or an ActionScript game is made, this is your opportunity. Now, what you'll notice is there's a lot of code in each particular class file. So we're in the game class right now, and we've got this update state. And then we've got things like unnamed switch statements that go on. So here are all your various different game states. Now, this is kind of an example of code that you don't ever want to write. So we're still in the same function, by the way. Oh, and I think, yeah, GitHub is harfing out for some reason. So this case statement just keeps going and going and going. So by the way, if you ever find yourself writing a switch statement with this many cases in it, okay, why do you keep puking out on me anyways? It's probably not good code. So even this code, the size of this text file seems to be giving either Firefox or GitHub some issues with keeping up. So yeah, this one class has 7,700 lines in it. And there's a lot of real winner code in there. But anyways, it's cool to see that he released this out there. And the cool thing is, if you can get it to build, you can actually run it. You don't need to buy VVVVVV. You can actually get it. There's a play version that's linked. I will link that in the linked article as well. But you can see it's available to download separately for free in the Make and Play edition. But if you want to get the full game, we'll look at that in a second as well. So we got some instructions on how to build it. Again, this is a 10-year-old game, so you're looking at 10-year-old tool chain. So you're looking at having to get Visual Studio 2010. That might be a bit of a challenge, or you're going to have to port it forward. But there's some gotchas in here for dealing with it. So you are going to have to get data.zip to get a hold of this guy, or you could buy the original and get the data files from it. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's it. The last thing to really kind of be aware of on this one, I don't know, did I do? Yes, I did. All right, is the license. Now, what they did is they've actually created their own license. So if you're going to derive from this work, do be aware that you really can't. You can't redistribute the assets from it, and you can't make, well, here's the 5 points of this license. So it's their own custom license. I'm always a little wary of that, but they don't want people basically just creating and reselling versions of VVVVVV because they actually are still selling it. And I get that. And you know what? If they didn't do this, some scumbag would do that. They would create their own version of using their exact code and it would sacrifice into their sales. So right here, you cannot alter, redistribute this in any manner that is primarily intended or directed towards commercial advantage or private monetary compensation. So basically, you can't make money off this, and that includes off of advertising if that is your choice. Origins of the software must not be misrepresented, so basically you can't say that you wrote this yourself. Altered source binary versions must be plainly marked as such and must not be misrepresented as being the original software. So if you change it, you have to acknowledge that you changed it, and you can't pretend that this is the original VVVVVV. You must not distribute any of the materials from the games which are not included in this repo. So in other words, you can't use the VVV binaries and share them. That's still piracy. And this notice cannot be removed. So it's a very straightforward license, but it basically forbids you from essentially making money off of this source release. And you know what? I find that reasonable. Once again, I mentioned earlier on that you can get VVVVVV still in store. And you'll notice here, it's got 4,300 overwhelmingly positive reviews on it since its release in September of 2010. And it is like $5 US still at this point, or you can get it with Super Hexagon for, what is that, about $7 US. However, I actually went and checked my Humble library, and VVVVVV was in it. And so I'm starting to get to the point where I have one of everything from Humble anyways. So if you are a Humble subscriber, do a quick search of your library to see if you've purchased something that included it in the past. This has been in a lot of bundles previous times. And I'll also link this down below as well, because if you look, VVVVVV on the Humble store is actually available right now, and coincidentally, it is massively on sale. So you can get this for, what is that, about $1.30 US? So if you do want to pick it up and have the data files to go with this source release, I will link to this sale. Right now, it is Saturday, the 11th of January. So it looks like you've got until like mid to late January of 2020 to pick that up if you haven't already. But again, check everywhere in your libraries. There's a good chance that you probably already own this on Steam. If you don't own it on Steam, you may own it on Humble. Check both places. Like I said, I found out I actually already own it. I've never played it before. And it's not really my thing, to be honest. I don't like Super Meat Boy either, and it's just not mine. I don't like Mario. Shit, I mentioned that out loud. Probably shouldn't have. So platforming games have never really been my thing, but if that's what you're into, you want to check out this source code, but you also want the data files to go with it. Like they mentioned earlier on, you can get it from the demo version, the play and learn version, or you can just straight out buy it right now for like $1.76 Canadian on Humble, and I will link that down in the linked article as well. So yeah, that's it. VVVVVV has just been released as open source on its 10th year anniversary. Cool on you, Terry. And if you dig into the source code again, a lot of that stuff, it was directly an ActionScript code base that was ported over to C++. So there ain't a lot there from a best practices perspective, just, a bit of a heads up. But it's always cool to look behind the curtain and see how other people coded stuff. And that's exactly what you have the opportunity to do here. And it's always cool to see a game that you've probably personally played at some point. So, yep, that's it. VVVV is now open sourced. Again, do be sure if you're going to do anything with that source code to check out that custom license. All right, let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.